The episode opens in the austere halls of the Bene Gesserit stronghold, Wallach 9, where Valia Harkonnen now stands firmly at the helm as the Mother Superior. Having emerged from Season 1's final power plays, her expression is resolute, yet beneath it lies urgency. The Imperium is shifting, and the Sisterhood must not only adapt, but seize control. Around the table sit her inner circle, including her sister Tula, whose presence is both comforting and cautious, a reminder of the very ambition that shapes and divides them. Valia begins the clandestine council with a measured statement. Our survival depends not only on obedience, but on opportunity. The whisper spreads through the room like spice-laden air. The Bene Gesserit must secure access to Melang, the only known substance capable of extending life, enhancing prescience, and empowering the voice. Control of spice is, in essence, control of fate. As discussions intensify, contrasting philosophies emerge. Some sisters argue for subtle infiltration-seeded truths. Alliances with minor houses, while others, led by Valia, press for bold strategic action. The consensus is uneasy but clear. Arrakis must be observed and eventually controlled. Cut to the harsh, wind-swept dunes of Arrakis for the first time in the series. Here, dust storms rage across barren landscapes dotted with jagged rock formations. The stark beauty of the desert is primal and unforgiving. Smugglers traverse this realm in stealth, hidden from both noble houses and the distant seat of power. In the distance, Imperial agents patrol crude encampments. The planet, though not yet the seat of House Atreides, is already a contested resource. Spice flows from beneath these sands, and everyone wants a piece. From this tableau, we shift to the staging of a Bene Gesserit envoy, a small contingent of sisters. They arrive in camouflaged skiffs, faces veiled, observing the chaos. They note the way spice is extracted with clattering, rudimentary machinery. How every tremor might summon a sandworm. How every transaction is shadowed by fearing eyes. They record rumors, desert tribes forming proto-Fremen movements, whispering of outsiders and ancient prophecies. Everything is noted in their journals, potential seeds for the mission area Protectiva, their long-term weapon of ideology and myth. The envoy's final scene in Act I brings them before a shimmering mirage at sunset, an expanse of spice-lag fields glinting like gold. Their leader utters softly, "This is the foundation of our future." As the camera pulls back, Arrakis appears both desolate and breathtaking, a lifeless world pregnant with power. Back at Wallach 9, Valia receives the envoy's cryptic transmission reports of resource conflict, religious currents stirring among Arrakis's populace, of spice-laden hopes and fears. She allows a rare, satisfied smile to cross her face. The screen darkens as she presses her palm to the table, whispering, "We have begun." The camera shifts from the stark sands of Arrakis to the gleaming corridors of the Imperial Court on Catan. Golden domes shimmer under the sun. But beneath the opulence lies a nest of vipers' political factions, competing for dominance in the Imperium. Here, Valia Harkonnen maneuvers carefully, her Bene Gesserit sisters positioned like shadows at the edges of noble councils. Their subtle movements, hushed words, and carefully placed smiles ripple through the court with invisible force. Valia seeks an audience with the Emperor's advisors, presenting herself not as a rival, but as a loyal servant offering guidance. Yet whispers already follow her. The Bene Gesserit are growing too influential, too secretive. Enter Lady Aurelia Carino, a sharp-tongued matriarch tied distantly to the Imperial bloodline. Aurelia emerges as Valia's foil, cunning, ambitious, and unafraid to confront the sisterhood in public. "You weave threads too tightly, Mother Superior," she warns during a tense exchange. Even the strongest fabric tears when pulled in every direction. The court watches in silence, tension thick as sandstorms. Meanwhile, back on Wallach 9, Tula Harkonnen oversees the training of new acolytes in the dimly lit chambers of the Sisterhood's fortress. Their exercises are brutal endurance trials, lessons in the voice, and long hours of mental conditioning. Tula pushes them hard, yet within her eyes lingers uncertainty. She watches one initiate, a gifted young woman, break down under the pressure. Tula comforts her in secret, whispering, "Strength must bend, or it shatters." It is a fleeting moment of compassion, but it reveals the cracks in her allegiance to Valia's increasingly ruthless vision. The inner circle gathers again, debating the sisterhood's next steps. Some call for restraint, worried that overreaching will expose them. Others, emboldened by Valia's determination, push for deeper infiltration of noble houses. The atmosphere is strained. Trust among them thins like worn fabric. One sister, veiled in gray, dares to question Valia directly. Do we serve the sisterhood's eternal mission, or your ambition, Valia? Silence follows, heavy with implications of dissent. Parallel to this brewing discord, the envoy on Arrakis continues their observations. They move among spice smugglers and minor houses, carefully disguising themselves as merchants. The planet is chaotic. No single faction truly controls it. Brutality rules the mining camps, where workers die from exhaustion, spice addiction, or sandworm attacks. Amidst this turmoil, the envoy overhears whispers of nomadic desert people who dwell deep in the sands. Though primitive and scattered, their stories tell of survival, prophecy, and a coming destiny tied to the desert itself. The envoy writes carefully, "Even here, belief takes root. Belief we may yet shape." A transmission chamber on Wallach 9 flickers to life as the Bene Gesserit envoy from Arrakis delivers their findings to Valia. Grainy images project across the chamber. Footage of spice harvesters, exhausted miners, and the violent sweep of a sandstorm swallowing an entire caravan. The envoy's voice is calm, yet laden with warning. Arrakis is perilous beyond measure, yet its bounty is unlike anything in the known universe. To control it is to control life itself. Valia listens intently, her face illuminated by the golden glow of the hologram. Around her, the inner circle remains divided. Some sisters argue that Arrakis is too dangerous, that to entangle the sisterhood in such conflicts risks exposure. Others, emboldened by Valia's conviction, whisper agreement. Spice is the key to the sisterhood's future. Valia rises, her tone sharp but resolute. The Imperium thrives on illusion. We shall weave a new one. Arrakis will be ours, not by armies, but by patience, by shadow, and by seed. Later that night, Valia retreats to her private chambers where sleep comes uneasily. Shadows swirl into visions. A desert storm rages beneath a burning sun, and amidst the chaos, a solitary figure walks the sands. Cloaked in mystery, the figure's eyes burn blue, within blue the unmistakable mark of spice saturation. He stands on a dune's crest, watching as legions rise behind him, chanting words she cannot hear. The vision shifts violently, a river of blood, a voice whispering her name, and finally silence. Valia awakens in a sweat, her breath ragged, her hands trembling. For the first time, fear flickers across her hardened mask. Meanwhile, Tula observes the new initiates undergoing their rite of binding, an ancient ritual that seals loyalty to the sisterhood. In a subterranean chamber lit only by oil lamps, the novices kneel in a circle. Incense smoke curls upward as senior sisters intone chants, invoking discipline, secrecy, and obedience. Each novice drinks from a chalice infused with spice residue, a test of endurance and will. Some gag, some convulse, but those who endure rise transformed. The ritual is both sacred and terrifying, binding the initiates not only to the sisterhood, but to the long, secret path the Bene Gesserit have chosen. As the ritual reaches its climax, the camera intercuts between the chanting novices and the sweeping sands of Arrakis. The wind howls across the desert, carrying the distant roar of a sandworm. The envoy stands at the edge of a spice field, watching the ground tremble, whispering, "The desert remembers." The imagery ties the sisterhood's ritual to the raw, untamed power of the desert world, a foreshadowing that their destinies are now inextricably linked. The episode closes with Valia addressing the inner circle one final time. Her words are soft, almost intimate, but carry the weight of prophecy. We stand at the beginning of a path that stretches centuries ahead. The Imperium will believe what we tell it to believe, and one day, a voice born of spice and shadow will rise to command even kings.